Well, for more on today's vote and what it means going forward, I'm joined by Harlan Ullman. He's a senior advisor at the Atlantic Council and the author of Anatomy of Failure: Why America Loses Every War It Starts. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
Now, let's start by looking at the goals of this tax plan in terms of the domestic economy. What are your thoughts?
It's not very good. The area where it's going to be most problematic is the deficit. The little nasty secret that nobody seems to understand is that the deficit is going to grow by some $10 trillion over the next 10 years because of the growth in the entitlement program. So now we're looking at $11 or $12 trillion of more debt. That's $30 trillion. If interest rates go up to 2%, 3%, a huge fraction of our annual budget is going to be paying for interest. Second, we haven't really got to the infrastructure. Our infrastructure is really that of a third world country in some areas, and because of the increase in the debt and deficit, it's going to be very difficult, it seems to me, to come up with a satisfactory infrastructure program, which is going to make America less competitive. Now, from an international perspective, now would not be a bad time to buy into U.S. public companies.
And why
because
is that?
obviously, with the tax benefits they're going to get, where's that going to go? It's going to go into dividends. It's going to go into making the stock prices higher. CEOs get paid usually by stock prices. And so the incentives will be put more money in dividends, whether a lot of money will go into productivity or not. But I think the stock market could see some continued growth. Of course, how long and how high remains to be seen, because it seems to me the growth has just gone on for too long. But I think there's some opportunities here.
Now, let's break some of this down. In terms of the overarching vision that Donald Trump has, make America great again, put America first, based on what you've seen in the plan, how much does that match up with the desired outcomes?
Not very much. You really have to go to his trade policy, which is of much greater concern. If you are familiar with accounting, you have a current account, which is trade, and a capital account, which is money. Unfortunately, what's happened is the Trump administration is only focused on the current account, meaning that our balance of trade needs to be brought back into equilibrium, so that, for example, China, with a huge surplus, we're saying we've got to have a more level playing field. The problem is China's put trillions of dollars in the U.S. economy where it's invested. And so you have to look at both sides, both the capital and current account, which the administration has not done. Furthermore, by getting out of the Trans-Pacific Trade Pact, we lose any kind of control. And this notion of doing bilateral negotiations on a one-on-one basis, to me, is going to be impossible, and it's not going to work. So what does this mean for countries like China? They're going to have the lead in areas like, for example, driverless cars and the green revolution. And so they're going to be, I think, marching way out ahead of us. Unless we can get something going with our infrastructure, and the whole state of our deficit and debt makes that unlikely, the United States could well fall behind in terms of productivity improvements.
So then, to that point, in terms of the industries and the countries, who are the big winners and losers then with this tax plan?
The biggest loser, ironically, could be the United States. And other countries are obviously going to exploit what they can. They'll probably open up new U.S. subsidiaries because in some cases the tax situation is more important for them and therefore a business leader. I don't think there are going to be really big winners and losers outside the United States in terms of tax. The issue is going to be trade policy. And as long as the United States demands reciprocity and wants to get its current account in better balance, it's going to be a very difficult road to hoe.
Now, in terms of paying for this plan, a lot of it is based on some of the assumed growth that the Trump administration is thinking that we're going to have. What happens if that doesn't materialize?
Poof. That's simple. And the fact of the matter is, to the degree that history counts, it's not going to materialize. You may get short-term gains. But look what the stock market did under Bill Clinton, when in fact we had tax increases. And the stock market is up about 25% this year without any tax cuts. So I think that the notion that somehow the economy is going to grow, the supply-side economics, is flawed thinking, or as George H.W. Bush once said, voodoo economics.
So if history has shown us that this approach doesn't work, why the pressure then to push it through?
The Republicans have to have a victory, period. This is political expediency. And this is not just a Republican problem. When the Democrats passed Obamacare, when they passed Sarbanes-Oxley to try to regulate conduct of American businesses after the Enron explosion, so forth, with Dodd-Frank that was going to clean up the financial system, they did the same thing. They pushed it through. Nobody has read the bill. Nobody has read the law. So now we'll see what the consequences are. This, unfortunately, is American politics, where today you're either with us or against us, and anything to get the bill through, because as long as you can claim a victory, regardless of what's in the bill, claiming victory is all that counts in American politics today.
And just quickly, we know that a lot of this was based on job creation, getting wages up. But in terms of that, we already see that the unemployment rate is at a historic low. It's at 4%. Where does it go from here then with this plan?
Well, the problem is that there are a lot of people who have just emptied out of the job market. So 4%, who knows how good that figure is. But your point is an extremely good one. The issue is, will wages rise? And even if they rise some, if you're a two-parent family, you have education, medical costs, all these kinds of things, it's very difficult to get along on less than $200,000 a year if you have children you want to send them to university. And I just don't think wages are going to keep up. I think there's going to be a larger disparity between rich and poor. If you've got a lot of money, you're going to do very, very well in this tax plan. So I think they've made a lot to do about not very much. We failed to deal with the deficit, we failed to deal with infrastructure, and we failed to make the tax code that much simpler. But this is American politics today.
All right, well, thank you for your insights. Of course, Harlan Ullman, Senior Advisor at the Atlantic Council and the author of Anatomy of Failure, Why America Loses Every War It Starts.